What is happening, people? It's Tottenham versus Bournemouth this weekend, game week 3 of the Premier League. Here's your Bournemouth opposition preview. Ollie, great to be joined by you today. How are you doing, firstly, mate? And talk to people a little bit about you, secondly.
Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you. I run Simply AFCB on Twitter. I have around 950 followers. I've been doing it since October last year, so not that long, to be fair. It goes alongside my degree that I'm studying for in graphic design, so I make my own graphics for it. Just developing graphic design, doing that on the side. And I talk a lot about, obviously Bournemouth, do a lot of the match previews, do a lot of just speaking about game, my opinions. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do, to be fair. And yeah, I'm on here today just to have a little chat about the opposition.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much for coming on and giving us your time. If you're listening on YouTube, please do like and subscribe. If you listen after on a podcast platform, don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Let's get straight into it. Ollie, can I start with you by talk about the season as a whole? Because we're a few games into it. So what are your hopes and expectations for the season? Is it maybe top half finish? Can you somehow push for Europe? How do you feel?
Yeah, no, I'm looking very positively ahead of the season. I think we can, we could easily push for Europe if we wanted to. I think, for me, I always have the attitude of the aim is to stay up. Anything else is a bonus. I think we need to, just keep our consistency. Obviously, losing a lot of players is a massive factor for us, and I think we need to try and gel everyone in to make sure that we can, play our game on the pitch, because I think it's obviously difficult when you lose a lot of players, especially in a load of positions like our defence. I think that's massive key. Losing 3 players in our defence is quite massive, and having to replace them and try and fit them in the team is very difficult. So I think we need time to allow for that, but I'm looking very positively ahead of the season. I think we can easily head for Europe this season. But obviously, I think our objective is to get as many points as we can. I think getting Europe is a bonus.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. Thank you very much. And if we can, I'm just going to review your season to date. So if people haven't seen it, on the opening day of the Premier League season, you lost 4-2 to Liverpool at Anfield, but then you beat Wolves 1-0 at home in that second Premier League game. And then the Carabao Cup recently, you lost 2-0 at home to Brentford, which was a defeat. So in the Premier League in particular, you're ninth with 3 points from 2 games. So what are your thoughts on that so far? And it's going to take some time to gel, isn't it? You speak about lots of changes at the club.
Yeah. I think the Liverpool game was very good. To be fair, I think it was a really good performance. Obviously, the result didn't say a lot. Conceding 4 isn't, the most ideal thing in the world. Even if it is Liverpool going away, I think it is. I think it is quite, and a lot of the goals we did concede were avoidable. I think in defence, we were pretty all over the place for the first half, in fact. And I think in the second half, it did get sorted out. But obviously, Diakate, our new signing in defence, arrived only a few days before the Liverpool game. So to be fair, you can allow for that. Semenyo was on form, scored 2. I think we did well to get back in the game from 2-0 down. I think it's quite difficult, especially in a place like Anfield. But I think it was a shame to concede another 2. I could see the winner from Liverpool being from. So I think conceding the 4th goal was a little bit unfortunate. I think it could have been avoided, but I think in total, I'm quite happy with the performance overall. I think in terms of the game at Wolves, I think it was a good win, good to get 3 points. I think Wolves looked okay as well. I don't think we lost. Won against a bad side or anything. I think they were a good side. So it was a good test for us. However, I think we struggled against 10 men. Weirdly, I think they were a difficult side to play against, really. But I think we did well to score the goal and get things, kicked off straight away. We should have been 2-0 up in the first half, to be fair, and just sealed the deal. I think even in the second half, we could have scored a lot more goals, to be fair. But that is the thing with us. We do have we create a load of chances, but we struggle to score so many. However, I think we do need to work on, scoring goals and sealing the deal, because I think if Wolves had 11 men on the pitch, it might have been a bit of a scary affair for us. But I'm going to take the 3 points and move on with that. Lots to improve on, but I think we did well in regards to the fact that there's a lot of new players we have anyway. In terms of Brentford, I don't think we played great. I think we had an all right first half. We did well with the fact that there was a lot of rotation in the squad, a lot of new signings are playing, a lot of debuts, a lot of players that don't usually play in general. But I thought we got outplayed by, a coach who had it bang on the day, a squad who knew exactly what they're doing, very organised, knew how to play against us, low block, did really well. But I don't think we were great. I don't think we knew how to unlock their defence. I thought our defending in places was a bit all over the place. But I'm not going to count cup matches too much, because at the end of the day, nothing to do with the Premier League. And it doesn't really reflect our performances that have happened in the Premier League so far. So I'm going to take that one on the chin and just move on from that one. But I think that it shows that we have a lot to improve on to get the squad to where we should be at, really. But yeah, I think that's an overall summary of where we're at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that, Ollie. And if you don't mind, we're going to move on now to your transfer window. So incomings 14 for you, and players out the door, departures 16 for Bournemouth. So according to transfermarket.co.uk, incomings Bournemouth generated, or paid, I suppose, 237 million euros, and expenditure is 121.6 million euros. So what are your thoughts on your transfer window so far, with just a few days remaining of the window?
Yeah, no, it's been a good transfer window for us. I think losing a lot of players that we have done, it's always difficult to be able to replace them. It's very difficult to make a like-for-like replacement. And obviously some of the players we've lost, such as Kirkes and Zabani, they've been very gelled into the team. They knew exactly what they were doing. They've been here for a couple of years. It's very hard to replace players like that, especially with the talent they have with Howson as well. Very big talent. However, I think we've done well so far to replace him for what it looks like. Diakate, only 24, Champions League team, same as Adley, Champions League team by Leverkusen. One kid at Toulouse has been doing really well for Leverkusen as well. Scored quite a few goals. I think they're very good signings, very positive signings. Truffert, been at Rennes, was club captain for them. I think made his debut at like 18 or something. I've been playing regularly ever since. I think we signed some really, really big players, and with a lot of experience as well. Diakate has a lot of experience. Adley has. Obviously Ben Doak, who's a bit of a, just signing more of a kid there. But he's obviously been on loan at Middlesbrough. Did well for them in the Championship. Is obviously impressed for Celtic to get his move to Liverpool, so very highly rated. Obviously, a few moves yet to go. The window isn't shut yet, but I think we've done really well. We've signed some big players. Obviously Petrovic as well. The situation with Kepa was unknown for a little while, but with wages in mind, we weren't going to sign him, I don't think. So I think bring Petrovic in to reduce wage costs is pretty vital for us. Good shot stopper. But I think we've done well to reduce wages on our end as well. We've gotten players that we don't need out, such as Luis Sinisterra, who's just gone on loan because he was one of the top earners for us. obviously Philip Billing left yesterday, who obviously probably quite high wages as well. We got a bit of a fee for him. Obviously Kepa, and obviously Zabani and Kirkes, we've let them go for a good fee. Obviously wages, they're probably quite high. And a couple of other players we've gotten rid of as well that we don't really need. So I think we've done pretty well, getting good fees for players, and getting rid of the players we don't need and replacing them with players that will help us this season. Obviously Dango Atara as well, who I don't think was very important for us, to be fair. He wasn't a starter every week, but getting 40 million for him isn't bad at all. Obviously wages as well. But yeah, I think we've done very well. I'm very impressed so far.
Okay, that's good to hear from your point of view. I mean, I think we can both agree that outgoings have been your focus and priority at the end of the window, so I won't ask you whether that is the case or not. But is it nice to be selling players to PSG, Liverpool, and Real Madrid, or then buying your players, I suppose? It's been a little while, isn't it, for Bournemouth have done that, because you've done business with Tottenham, with Solanke, as you alluded to, for Manchester City as well with Ake. But generally, it just seems very big, doesn't it, for Bournemouth to be doing business with clubs like that?
Yeah, it shows how far we've grown as a club. I think we've done quite a lot of deals with big clubs in the last year or two, which obviously we haven't really had that, apart from a few ones when we got relegated, and obviously last season was Solanke. But it does show how well we've done, and obviously the system we have with buying players now, because we're clearly buying a lot of players that we want to develop and sell on for a higher fee, and obviously we've made so much money with it. Obviously Towson we signed for about 15 million, sold for 50. Zabani 20 million, and we sold for about 60 or so. Kirkes, I think we signed for again about 15 million and sold for 40, I think, which is just massive for us. And obviously it helps us sign even better players that we can then develop and sell on. That is the system. But yeah, it's amazing how all these players like Real Madrid are looking at our players and thinking, wow, they'd be a brilliant fit to start at our club. And everyone's been raving about Howson at Real Madrid as well. So it's not like he's just some kid that's come in. He's starting every week for them. It's amazing, really.
No, it is. I didn't think you'd see it, but that's credit, to the manager and the club for the players that you did have. But do you feel for Iraola, maybe, losing lots of players, in particular the majority, if not all, of his back line? And how do you think that he and his team have coped with those absences and those departures?
Yeah, I think it's been tough at Areola. I think he'll find it difficult at first, because I think anyone would find it difficult to gel in a load of new players in defence. Truffer and Diakate, new signings in defence, and obviously that they are subject to play a big part of the season. They're meant to be big replacements for Zabani and Kirkes. So we need to work on how we're going to integrate them into the team properly. I think they to be fair to them, the pair of them have started off brilliantly. And I think that's credit to Andoni. But I think I do feel for him in a way that, he's lost quite a few key players, but, obviously we know that the club's going to back Areola, because he's, obviously he needs these players to be able to do what he's doing on the pitch. And obviously, if we want to keep Andoni Areola at the club, we're going to have to back him with some really good players. And I think the club have done that very well. And I think Areola should be very happy with the players that he's been given, because they are very good players, especially in defence.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And if your window, for whatever reason, shuts tonight, or maybe a better question that's not quite as hypothetical, if the window closes on Monday and you sign or sell no more players, what would you rate it out of 10? 10 being the highest, or something like a 0 or 1 being the absolute lowest?
I think I'd give it a 7.5. I think we've done very well with replacing the players that we've lost, as I've said. I think obviously the players we've signed haven't been like, they haven't been like massive names as well. Truffer, a very good Ligon's left back, and we signed for about 15 million, which is a bargain. A Diakate, who, to be fair, was a big name in Ligon as well. Obviously, Champions League centre half as well. Made his debut at like 17, I think, for Toulouse. Moved on to Lille a few seasons later. But he's been very good for them. I've seen Lille fans raving about him. So I think we've signed a very good centre half for only about 40 million, which I think is really good. Obviously, Ben Doak and Adley. I think Adley will be a very key player. He looks very good, very direct, very skillful. I think we should be very happy with him. I think that's a decent deal for him. Only 25 years old as well. And then obviously Doak. I don't really know too much about Doak, but he looks like a decent player. Obviously, been on loan with Middlesbrough, did well. And Liverpool wonder kid. I think he'll be very exciting for us. And Petrovic as well. I think he looks like a very good shot stopper. I think that's kind of what we need. Wasn't a massive fee for him. Decent age for a goalkeeper as well. But yeah, I think we've had a good window. Obviously, in January, kind of as part of this window, we signed Krupi, who was on loan at Lorient until the summer. So we've only just seen him. We've probably only just paid for him this summer. But he's 19 years old, scored about 20 goals in French League 2. So yeah, I'm very happy with our window, and I think 7.5 is probably fair, if not higher, to be fair, because I think we've done really, really well to replace our players. I think obviously, I think maybe a few more players over the line, but I think we've done well for outgoings, especially. I think outgoings, I probably give like a 9.5. I think incomings, maybe a couple more needed, if anything, but I think we've done very well with what we've got. I think, yeah, maybe stretching it, maybe an 8. But yeah, I think we've done well.
That sounds good. Thank you very much, Ollie. So yeah, definitely the outgoing's been the focus. What area of the squad would you like to improve before Monday if you can? I think you're expected to sign the Sassy from Chelsea centre back, aren't you, for the window closes?
Yeah, I think a centre half is probably the one I'd say. Obviously, a bit more depth needed. Obviously, losing 2 centre halves in the summer, so I think a centre half, just one more centre half will do us. Obviously, Disassi, cover right back as well. So I think that's quite good for us. A centre half covers right back. I think we might need that this season. I think we need a bit of a utility man who can cover in case of injuries. So yeah, I think that's kind of our priority. I think other than that, we're pretty good for every position at the moment.
Okay. And before you get onto the game, can I ask you about Tottenham's transfer window and how you view it as an outsider?
I think it's been very good for Tottenham. I think in terms of outgoings, I don't think you can be too pleased with that. I think it's been a bit difficult for you to ship out players that you probably want to get rid of. But I think, in terms of incomings, I think it's been okay. You probably haven't spent as much as you wanted to, but I think the players you signed have been good. I think Palhinha is a very, very good signing. Experienced defensive midfielder. Thomas Frank likes his defensive midfielders. Obviously, Tell, he looks quite good. He looked quite good last season, I thought, for Tottenham. I think you're probably quite glad you got him permanently. I think Danso as well. I think he'll prove to be very good in defence. Obviously, Kudus as well. I don't think he was amazing at West Ham personally, but I don't think he probably matched the style of play they had, because he's very good at in his first season actually when they won the Conference League under David Moyes. But I think as last season went on, he wasn't very good. I watched him a couple of times. He didn't look great. But I think for Tottenham, he'll be a lot better. I think he's probably Thomas Franks and Buemo, I'd say,
Yeah.
in that sense. But I think Tottenham have had a decent window for their incomings. You probably want a couple more, to be fair, if you're being picky, but I think it's been okay. I don't think you complain too much. I think it's just the outgoings that you probably want to ship out, to be honest. And you're probably quite disappointed with the fact you lost out on a couple of players like Eze and Gibbs White as well. Whatever happened with Gibbs White, I have no idea, but I think it's I think it's unfortunately one of them that you've kind of missed out on. But I think with the fact that Arsenal where they are and they can probably offer what they want for players, I think they've probably got an upper hand in that. But I feel like Tottenham I don't think they should be too disappointed. I think it's just the fact that you probably haven't got a 10 in that you're probably quite you're probably a little bit concerned with the fact that obviously Maddison's injured.
Yeah, and Ollie, I agree with you. I think what we've done has been good in terms of Paulini and Rakuda's a good signing. What concerns me is like you get James Maddison done his ACL over a month ago. We haven't replaced him, and we were going to sign Gibbs White before that. So we were going to be with 2 10s, with Kulusevski also been a third when he come back from injury. But since we've had Kulusevski's injury has been extended from September to January, that kind of time he's going to come back. Maddison's ACL and pretty much done for the season. The time he gets up to match fitness. And then you've got Gibbs White didn't happen, Eze didn't happen. So that's a frustrating thing for Spurs fans, the fact we haven't replaced Son. And you're absolutely right as well with the outgoings. But in terms of like wages as well, I think Tottenham just fall behind other top 6 clubs. We were speaking about this when we off air. Like, it's just the contrast is just baffling. I'm not saying that's necessarily the reason that Eze chose Arsenal, because his boy, an Arsenal fan, let go by Arsenal Academy. But it doesn't help. If you're saying, Tottenham, here's a 150, 200 grand, or you go to Arsenal and here's like 350, close to 400 grand, because our highest paid now Romero with his new deal apparently with 200 grand. It's still a lot. I'm sure it sounds a lot to you as a Bournemouth fan, but do you think that Tottenham might be losing out on some of those players because not paying the wage that the other clubs do in the top 6?
Probably. I think that's a big pull factor in this day and age of football, I believe. I think it's probably difficult for Tottenham to compete with the likes of Man City and probably Man United, to be fair, because they offer what they want for wages, don't they? Silly amounts. Obviously, Arsenal the same. And obviously, you can see who Liverpool signed. They've got some massive pull with their players. But I think it's difficult for Tottenham to compete. I think, I don't know too much about Tottenham's ownership and stuff like that. But all I know that is you're probably not as wealthy as the other lot, or at least you don't invest probably that money that is needed to compete. Because you probably got. I think it's probably difficult as well because of your Premier League position as well, prize money and everything like that. Because that's a massive factor into budgets for next season. Because I know that even if you finish one place higher, you're like 10 million better off. It is very odd, but I know Tottenham probably get a lot of money through TV rights, sponsorships like that, of the so-called Big Six. I think it's probably quite difficult for you guys, to be fair.
Yeah, no, that's a good point you made. That's really important to consider. But let's move on to the game itself. But maybe before I do, I want to ask you how you view Tottenham as a club and their supporters, whether you respect them, you envy them, you don't care. And also, as well as that, a second question, Ollie, about any past memories, good or bad, of playing Spurs that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I think I quite like Tottenham, to be fair. I'm fairly indifferent, but there's people I know that were Tottenham fans that I went to school with. So I've spoken about Tottenham loads of times before. And I quite like the fan base, to be fair. I think it's quite nice with Tottenham because you do find some fans of other Big Six clubs can be quite unbearable, but I don't think Tottenham are one of them because I think they're a lot more of a closer sort of a close knit club compared to the likes of Man United, Arsenal, a bit like that. Liverpool. I don't think Chelsea is so much, but I think Tottenham are very more, they're very more community based. I think they're a lot more. I don't want to say it, but it's like almost Tottenham are like they're not like, it's not like Tottenham are smaller. It's just they've got more of a local fan base, I believe.
Yeah.
A lot of Tottenham fans you hear of a lot come from like Essex, and there's quite a lot that come from down where, like in Hampshire area, to be fair. There's quite a lot around this sort of Londony area, but I think if you speak to a lot of like United fans, they can be all over the country. But it's nice to have like a club where it's very local, and it's very, there's a lot of links to North London. I think I quite like that. And every time you go to the ground, there's a lot of atmosphere, and there's just a lot of going on, and I love the stadium. It's amazing. It's absolutely huge, and I love the massive south stand that I face opposite if I was in the away bit. It is amazing. I think my memory with Tottenham, my first memory with Tottenham was 2019 December, and I watched Tottenham against us. Oh, actually, no. One thing I didn't mention while we were on air was we went to Wembley to watch us versus Tottenham when your stadium was getting built, and I was in the Tottenham end, right at the top, because we couldn't get tickets for the away fans. But so we were talking to some Spurs fan. He was a season ticket holder, but he ended up leaving in like the 50th minute because he was like, "I've seen enough now." It was. We lost 1-0 that day. Ericsson scored, I think. It was in the 17-18 season, I think. I think that sounds about right for Tottenham building their stadium, to be fair, because the season before, Hart Lane, I believe. Yeah, I thought that was right. So, yeah, I think the following season they spent part of it at Wembley, and then you went to your
That's
new
right.
Tottenham Hotspur stadium. But yeah, in that season between there, I went in Tottenham, and it was amazing to see us at Wembley. Though it felt surreal, but it was. And then the next one I went was 2019, where I saw us lose 3-2. We almost had a bit of a comeback, but we kind of bottled it in the last minute, and we were through on goal. But Harry Wilson, who now plays for Fulham, scored twice. Scored a free kick, was a very stunning free kick actually. And then I watched us win 3-2. Dango Atara scored the winner. Sorry, not winger. And that was a really, really good game. And that was amazing. But no, I've really enjoyed going to Tottenham. I enjoy going. I enjoy the walk all the way to the stadium from Seven Sisters. Actually, it's a really good away day. One of my favorite away days in London. Probably them and Fulham. But yeah, I'm very fond of going away to Spurs. I do like it.
Yeah, you got a good choice I think there with Tottenham and Fulham, your two top choices you picked. I mean, Fulham's just iconic, isn't it? It's historic, and Tottenham's a grand stadium, and it's both for different reasons. They're really enjoyable, so I think that's really good picks there. But on to the game itself. How do you feel about this? The game this weekend.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit nervous for it, to be fair, because it's obviously it's a big game for us, as every game is, but I think it's one where we need to bounce back from yesterday's game against Brentford. I think that'll be key for us. I think we need to get ourselves sorted, get ourselves organised. I think in defence we need to make sure we're tight against Tottenham, because I think you can have a lot of threat and attack. But I think we're looking. I think we're looking positive, though. If you're looking at the past two Premier League games, I think we've looked okay. We've had decent starts of the season, top half of the table. But I think, I think we have what it takes to snatch at least a point. But we just need to make sure we're on it. I think we need to, make sure that we're being clinical as well, because I think we might struggle to get as many chances. I think we might struggle to break the defence. I think that might be a cause for concern.
Okay, thank you. And any Spurs players you fear in particular? Maybe if we have to narrow it down to one or two, any that could cause Bournemouth the most problems?
I think Richarlison. I think he's been on good form. And I think he's a really good player when he's on it. And I think because he's on form at the moment, I think he can really be a real danger. I think he's a big lad as well. He's quite big. He's quite tall. And I think he'll be a pretty quite difficult for our defence to be able to manage. I think our centre backs are quite big centre backs as well, but I feel like it might be a decent match between them two. And I think Kudus will be one as well. Quite direct, quite attacking sort of player. He wants to get forward, he wants to go for it. But I think we need to make sure that we make sure we cancel him out of the game. I think the same for Johnson. To be fair, he can snatch him with goal. We need to make sure that he's marked properly. But I think there's quite a lot of threats in the Tottenham team, especially at the minute. And I know the way with Thomas Frank, and he plays, and the way he attacks is very threatening. And he's done well against our Premier League sides in the past couple of years, and we really need to sort that out. So I see those two as being quite threatening players on Saturday.
Okay, appreciate that. And what about for you from Bournemouth that could cause Tottenham the most problems? Semenya is the one who sticks out to me.
Yeah, I think Semenyo. I think obviously he's been on brilliant form at the moment. I think that's quite a big shout. I think you're very right in saying that. I think him and Evan Nilsson. Obviously, Evan Nilsson scored last season against Spurs. He's a very threatening player. I think even Dom Solanke actually in ways. I think in different ways. I think they know how to do the hard things, but the easy things they struggle with, which I find a theme with both of them. Obviously, they're very similar sort of strikers as well. They want to be in the box. They want to help out with play. They go back. But I think for us, Evan Nilsson is a big shout. He's a bit of a playmaker. Drops back. Very strong. Good head. Good strike on him when he can. I think he just needs to get in that position. But I'm hoping that if we can maybe swing balls into him, I think that will be his type of ball. But we need to make sure that we give him service, because that's when he's most threatening. But yeah, same for Semenyo. Very, very direct. He wants to run into the box and shoot. His shots are unbelievably powerful. I don't know how he does it. He just swipes at the ball, and I don't know how he does it. He completely whacks it. But I think if you give him opportunities to shoot, he will score. He's got a brilliant finish on him. But yeah, I think they're two definite threats for Saturday.
Okay, no, thank you. Definitely will watch out for both of them. I think Evan Nilsson come off you, didn't he, against Brentford in the Cup? I know it didn't get you back in the game, but he looked really promising, so I think it's a very good shout with Evan Nilsson. But with your predicted Bournemouth starting 11 then for this game, do you want to talk us through it 1 to 11? What you think that Iriallo will go with?
So I think it'll be Petrovic in goal. I think that's quite an obvious one. Obviously, our backup goalkeeper is now Will Dennis, who came from our academy. Club rates him quite highly, but obviously it's Petrovic. Adam Smith, former Spurs player. He's brilliant. 34 years old, and he's brilliant. I've never seen a player that's around that sort of age that plays like he's 25. He's really good. He's Mr. Reliable. Centre halves, Diakate, Sinetti. it'll definitely be that. Obviously, Senesi came on at half time for Diakate. Diakate came off. No, I'm actually not sure why yesterday, but I see Diakate playing a full 90 on Saturday. I think they have a good developing partnership. I think it's only going to get better because they need to gel together. But they're two very good ball playing centre halves. I think they'll work together very well this season. Truffer, left back, is very good linking up with Semenyo on the left hand side as well, who will definitely be playing. I think they work well together. Obviously, Trafford's very good at getting forward, but he also tracks back very well. Tyler Adams in the 6. He's a very good defensive midfielder, very reliable, very good playing with his feet. Very good at getting out of tight situations, likes to tackle, likes pressing, works very hard. I think it'll be Christie playing as the 8, came off against Brentford early on. He started. Looks a little bit rusty, but I reckon he'll start. Alex Scott played the full 90, so I reckon it'll be Christie. And then I think it'll be Brooks on the right. He's played the last 2 games, started both. He's been incredible this season so far. He struggled with his fitness over the last couple of years with, obviously, he had cancer a few years ago and recovered with that. But obviously he didn't play for about 18 months, I believe. He's had leg injuries. He's had a lot of injuries throughout his career, but he's done really well. And he's not even injury prone really anymore. He's done really well. He's an excellent player. Mentally and physically, to be fair, because mentally you need to be powerful to get through the things he's got through. But he's been amazing so far this season. Direct, likes taking a player on. In the middle, I think it'll be Tavernier, I believe. Didn't play on yesterday. I'm not actually sure if he was on the bench. I actually don't know where he is. I hope it's not anything bad, but I hope it's let me double check actually, because I'm whether he's going to play on Saturday now.
He was involved.
I think he
against
just didn't
Wolves,
play
wasn't he?
because he was. Oh no, he was on the bench. He wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, he was. He scored. He was a goal scorer. But yeah, no, he was. He was on the bench yesterday, so he's fit. I thought I didn't see him on the bench, to be fair. No, so I reckon he'll play. He's Eraola's favourite, sorry. So I think he'll play. And up front, Evan Nilsson, Mr. Star Striker, Mr. Starman. I think he hasn't got his goal yet of the season, but he's played really well so far. He's not really had the service that he probably wants, but he's done well so far. Quite happy with Evan Nilsson. Obviously, on the bench, we've got some of our depth. I think Adley will come on. I think Ben Doak might come on as well. I think he had an okay game yesterday, but he got subbed off at half time, so you didn't see much of him. I think Krupi might come on. I think he struggled at striker last game. I'm not too sure if he is a striker, if I'm honest, but he might come on. I hope he does, because he looked like he has a lot of potential there. But yeah, I think that'll be our starting 11 anyway.
Okay, and so anything you change? Obviously, that's what you think Ariola will go with. Anything maybe you want to see a little bit different, a little bit bolder, or anyone you think, I think they should start or get a chance?
Yeah, I think Cliver should get a chance. Obviously, I think Adley will come on. But I think I wouldn't start Adley, to be fair, because he played 90 against Brentford. So he'll probably be knackered anyway. So I reckon he'll probably be subbed on, which I'm happy with. But yeah, Cliver, I think was quite poor against Brentford, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. But I think he needs Premier League opposition. Obviously, he's just come back from injury, he didn't play against Wolves or Liverpool. Or maybe he did. I need to check this as well. I actually can't remember. I think he might have come on. Yeah, he did come on, but he came on quite late. He didn't really have a chance to do anything, but he wasn't involved in starting the lineup anyway.
Yeah.
But he didn't get enough chance to do anything. And obviously at Brentford, he didn't really offer that much. I'm not gonna lie, but it's a cup game, so it's different. It's a different scenario. But I think I'd want to see a bit more of Cliver if he came on from the bench. I think Tavernier will probably start, which is fine. But yeah, I think Adley and Cliver I'd want to see of, and Krupi as well. I'd like to see him in the 10 really, because I think he'll be a good 10. Obviously, as I said, plays striker against Brentford, but I don't think that was his position. I think he's more of a playmaker.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. Thank you very much and what you change. But can I get your score prediction now for the game and who you think is going to score from both sides?
So I think, being optimistic, I'm going to say 2-2. I feel like realistically, I could probably say that we probably lose, like 2-1 or 3-1. I reckon we'll score, but I think 2-2. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say Evan Nilsson and Semenyo, and I think a Brennan Johnson goal and a Richarlison goal, I think, for Tottenham.
Okay, thank you very much. So 2-2, a bit like it was last year. I mean, how did you win that game last year in the end? I mean, it's still
I
probably a
know.
good result. You would take the result at the start of the day, but 2-0 up, it ended 2-2. And let's be honest with you, I can admit it, that was one of our worst games under Andrew. There were quite a few as well. You should have been 3 or 4 up, to be honest with you, that
Yeah,
first half.
that sums us up really as a team. I think we create a lot of chances, don't score as much as we probably should. We're not clinical, but that's kind of our style of play. I think I think we should have sealed the deal when it was 2-0. I think we could have made it 3 or 4 before Tottenham got back into it. But that's football, isn't it?
It is. It could go either way. So if I said to you now, here's a point. Would you take a draw in this game? Would you take it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be good if we obviously sealed the 3 points, but I think a point on the road against a top team, I'm happy with that. Simple as.
Fair enough. I don't blame you for taking that. Before we get on some end of season predictions to wrap up, I want to go over like kind of you as a Bournemouth fan and what I call Bournemouth memories and identity that I always do on these opposition previews. So firstly,
Yeah.
what's your earliest or favourite? You can answer one or the other or both. Memory supporting Bournemouth.
Yeah, so I started going. I think my first game was 2012. My dad tells me that was my first game, but I actually can't remember it. I was like, oh, it's a long time ago now. But that was my first game. But my first memory was Doncaster Rovers in the Championship in 2014. I think I've been to a few games in and around that time, but that's the first one I remember. And I started going to games regularly in the next year or two. I suddenly realized at like 10 years old that I do like football. So I I started going to games in like the Carabao Cup games or the EFL Cup, what they called it at the time, Carling Cup. I can't really remember. I started going to those games in the FA Cup games and the friendlies. And then when I started being able to get home tickets, I started going to them and away games as well. I did them from about 2017 onwards. I started doing away games because I couldn't get home tickets. And then when I got home tickets, starting about 2018-19, I started going to them as well in the Championship. This season, I haven't been to Wolves, and I'm not planning to go to that many home games because of financial reasons. So, which is unfortunate, but I'm going to try and go sporadically. But I will be going to hopefully a couple of away games this season, couple of home games as well, obviously. But my favourite memory, I think obviously that 3-2 win against Spurs was a big one for me because we were struggling that season, and that was one of the monumental wins for us to stay up. Also, Leicester away in that period as well, which I think was like the week before Spurs. We won that as well, like a 1-0 win. It was scrappy, but we won it, and that was a really good game. And that was massive. Like the whole of that April, we got 15 points, which is almost like half of the points we managed to get at that whole season, in a month alone, which is mental. But I think that was probably one of my best memories. I think also when we got promoted the season before against Nottingham Forest, all the players put on a massive shift, 1-0 win, Kiefer Moore, and obviously us selling Philip Billing was actually quite sad because of that moment, because he got the assist and he put in a massive, well thought out free kick, short to Kiefer Moore, which caused the goal. Which was it's so sad to see Billing go, because he was a massive part of like me growing up, because he did well in the championship, and obviously was massive in our staying up campaign in the Premier League a couple of years ago. But yeah, I think they're two of my favourite memories, especially in recent years. Obviously going up the first time in the championship, us staying up in the Premier League the first time. There's been so many good memories. I think obviously as a Bournemouth fan, it's, the best time of our history. There's too many to count that I can't single it out. But yeah, I think that kind of sums me up as a Bournemouth fan, and probably a lot of people up as a Bournemouth fan.
Okay, nothing like that. That's really interesting to hear. I appreciate that, Ollie. Some lovely, lovely stories there. What does Bournemouth mean to you personally? You've given us a little insight there. How would you sum it up?
I think it's been a massive part of my life, really, in the past 10 or so years. I think it does me really good. Even if I'm not going to the games every week, I still try and listen to it, try and catch it on telly, try and find whatever I can get to watch a game. I would try the hardest I can to get and watch a game somehow. But it's so good for me. It gives me. I mean, during pre-season, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, "What am I doing without football?" It's a massive part of my life now, and I enjoy the content creation side as well. I think that because obviously, when I think about doing graphic designs, all I think about is just making a football edit or something. Everything has to be about football for me, and I think Bournemouth means massively to me. It's so good being able to just go to a game, not have to think about anything. Win, lose or draw. I just enjoy the experience. Obviously, I went to the game yesterday at Brentford. Obviously, that was the first time in a while that I went to a game. To be fair for me, and it just felt good because I went with my friend who I hadn't seen for a couple of years prior to seeing him the other week. And it was amazing. It felt so good. And it creates such good memories between me and other people. And there's so many people that, my friends and family and my girlfriend who I brought to the game, because it's a special place for me. Honestly, it is.
It means a lot. You can tell that. That's really good to hear. Thank you very much. Who's your all-time favourite Bournemouth player? If you had to choose one, and why?
My favourite one is Josh King. He was always a massive player for me growing up. I loved him. He was amazing. He was such a good footballer. He didn't leave in the best way. It was a shame that he left on a bad note. But while he was here, for assessing a player while he was at the club only, not them leaving, I don't care about that. But Josh King was amazing footballer. He was so good. He worked his socks off in some games. Some games he was a little bit lazy, to be fair, but I feel like that was more towards the end of his time here. Unfortunately, but I thought while he was here, he was absolutely amazing. He was such a good finisher, and he I don't know what was about him. He just when you talk about strikers, I think there's some strikers out there that are terrible footballers and amazing finishers, but there's some that are amazing footballers and good finishers, and he was one of them. I think the same for like Dom Solanke. He was a brilliant footballer, and he was a really good finisher as well. There's not many players, there's not that many strikers that can hold up a ball so well, put on a good pass, dribble. He was a brilliant dribbler, and a great finisher as well. An all-rounded striker is all you need, and he was one of them.
Okay, thank you. The next one I think I might know the answer to, but I could be wrong. I haven't been following football for too long, being only 16. But who's your all-time favourite Bournemouth manager and why?
Yeah, definitely be Eddie. I think that's
Yeah.
a easy answer, to be honest. There's not many that I think Andoni he's done so much for the club, Andoni, in only a few years. But he hasn't been here long enough to be, up there. Eddie has done amazing things for the club. I think, to be honest, I think you could ask any Bournemouth fan that's just a simple answer. There's been managers out there, especially since Eddie left, that have done stuff for the club, like Gary O'Neill. I didn't like his style of play, but he helped us stay up with a squad that was terrible. And the depth we had, which was awful, but he did really well and keeping us up. And I think, he can be appreciated for that. Obviously, Andoni, enough said. Woodgate in our first championship campaign back in the championship, we struggled under Jason Tindall, who is now at Newcastle, but he after Eddie left, obviously Tindall took over for a few months and got sacked. And Woodgate took over, Jonathan Woodgate, and he did really well considering obviously he's been an assistant manager for a lot of time. And he can be appreciated, but obviously what Eddie has done has been incredible. Taking us from League Two, almost going down, all the way to Premier League, finishing 9th. With, to be honest, we had a good squad, but we did a lot to finish 9th. And Eddie, we got backed decently, but not like we do now. And I think Eddie did amazingly for our squad.
Yeah, I think that's what I expected you to say. So no surprise. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for the job he's done at Bournemouth or Newcastle. If I'm being totally honest with you.
I think at Newcastle he's done sensational as well. I think enough said about that. Really, he's been amazing for Newcastle. I mean, the fact that they got back into the game the other day against Liverpool,
10 men, three injuries.
Brilliant. Just sums them up, really.
Never die, never fight attitude that can be admired. I think you could say about Eddie Howe and his teams. But let's get to some end of season predictions then. I still like to do it while the window's open. We're still at the start of the season. So start with your club, Bournemouth. If you had to decide, you'd have to put hand on heart now, where are you going to finish in the Premier League?
I reckon we'll finish like 11th. I think 11th is fair. Obviously, I think, we've had a rebuild. And I think we will get 50 or something points. I think we'll do okay. I think we'll do well, but I think obviously as well the teams that got promoted are a lot better this year, which means we might not get as many points from teams down there, but I'm hoping we can have a decent season nonetheless. I don't see us getting Europe or near Europe, but I think realistically, I think like 10th, 11th is good. I think anywhere staying up, I'm fine with that. That's successful in my eyes. But I see us finishing somewhere in mid-table.
Okay, and what about my club, Tottenham? What do you reckon?
I can't remember where I said Tottenham would finish. I reckon I think you'll finish 6th. I think 6th is fair. 6th or 5th. I think you'll be up there this season. I think you'll be a you'll be a team to beat this season. I think it's just, it's about the rebuild for you guys. If anything, I think you need to rebuild your side. And I think you're in the process of doing that. I think that's probably the reason why you probably wouldn't be higher, but I think 6th is fair.
Okay, and I'd absolutely take that. So I appreciate that, Ollie. And last couple of questions, and it's literally only a couple before we end. Who do you think is going to be the Premier League dark horses this season, firstly?
Brentford, from what I saw yesterday. I think everyone's put them to go down. I think they'll finish like 9th or something like that. I think they'll be fine. And I think there's a few teams. They look really good.
That's a big shout. Big shout with Brentford there to go.
Yeah, I think Brentford are a good side. I think they've lost a lot of players as well, but they look well organised. I thought yesterday they looked so organised. I think teams like Burnley might stay up as well, actually. I think obviously West Ham are struggling. I think Everton could struggle at points. I think they've had a good they had a good game against Brighton, but obviously over the course of the season there's a lot of demanding things for them. But I can, and obviously they got a new stadium as well, so they might do. I think Wolves could struggle, to be fair.
Definitely.
But I think Sunderland might stay up. Obviously Leeds and Burnley have a chance as well. They might surprise, but I think Brentford for me is the dark horses. I think they'll have an absolutely fine season.
Okay, very good shout with Brentford. A bold one, as I said earlier, but I like that you're going different. And the last question is, who do you think is going to really struggle? I'm going to say something for this one. I think Aston Villa.
Yeah, I think they might struggle with the. They seem to be struggling so far, to be fair. I mean, they haven't started their season off great, but I think it's bound to happen really because Unai Emery doesn't really, after a certain amount of time, he does start to struggle. We saw that with like Arsenal and and when he's at Villarreal, he eventually got sacked. PSG, he seems to start off very well, and then after a couple of years, it kind of seems to fade. I think they might struggle, and I think obviously I said Wolves might struggle, but I think that's more. I don't think that's very surprising, considering I don't think their recruitment's been that great. I think Wolves fans have even said that, and obviously they've had problems internally. I think that's their issue really. It's more the board with them. I wouldn't be surprised if they head down soon because I don't think they're backed very well by the board at the moment. Who else might struggle? I think the promoted sides I think they will do okay. It might be a hit or miss season for Leeds and Burnley. I think Sunderland, I think they've just got a free hit here. They've signed a lot of players. They could either be really rubbish or really good. I think Leeds and Burnley, they are the package. I think Leeds have done quite good recruitment. I think they should hopefully. I think they could finish 17th. They could fight relegation. I think they'll be okay. I think Burnley look okay so far. Really, to be fair, I'm not sure how they looked against Tottenham, but obviously that's always going to be a struggle for them. Brighton might struggle a little bit. To be fair, yeah. Fulham. I said Fulham. Fulham might struggle because they have not recruited at all. Really,
no,
I don't know what's going on with Fulham, but it's not.
I believe they're saving all their money out there for Kevin from Shakhtar Donetsk, and they put like 40-50 million pound bid in that was rejected. I think it's for some reason like really focused on getting him. So I think they could end up paying like 60 million and it all going there. But it is absolutely crazy. But I tell you what, I'm going to throw one more question in there because you've interested me to talk about teams that struggle. What 3 teams do you think are going to go down? It's so hard to say at this early stage.
Yeah, that is really hard to say. I think it will be. I mean, I think it will probably be like, probably like Burnley, Wolves, and I think West Ham will end up staying up because they'll sack Potter and they'll have a new manager bounce and they'll be fine. I'd probably say Leeds. I think they have a massive chance of staying up as well, but unfortunately, the rest of the 17 teams that aren't Sunderland, Leeds, and Burnley are good. Even Wolves, I think they could surprise, but the rest of the teams up there are pretty good. Brighton, Fulham, Brentford, West Ham, Everton, they'll end up being fine at the end of the day. It seemed to happen for a few years. So I think it'll be maybe Wolves, Burnley, Leeds.
Lovely. And that kind of wraps up nicely for this opposition preview. So thank you, Ollie. Where can people find you across social media and, of course, your page that you run?
Yeah, so I'll have my Twitter. So that's just simply AFCB. Just simply AFCB. That's my main thing, to be fair. I would say things about my TikTok. I haven't really got anything on there, so focus on the Twitter. That's absolutely fine with me.
No worries. Thank you very much for coming on. And if people don't know, this is the second time we tried to record this because silly me, we were halfway through recording it. We paused it, and instead of pressing the resume button, I pressed the restart button. So Ollie, I really appreciate you giving me, a lot of your time today, a second attempt. I'm glad that we got it right in the end. So I really appreciate you coming on. But for anyone who's listening, if you're new to the YouTube channel, please do like and subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast platform, which you of course can do, please drop us a follow, a 5-star review. Check Ollie out across all socials. Enjoy the game this weekend, and I said, come on, you Spurs.